nation's mayors and civil rights organizations are teaming up to lead the way in addressing the ongoing economic and social inequalities in America following an inaugural meeting at New York's Gracie mansion yesterday. The new working group said D.C. is failing to come up with a domestic policy agenda that includes all Americans. Shocker. National Urban League president and CEO Mark Morial, who is one of the leaders of the mayoral civil rights partnership, of course, he also former mayor of New Orleans, pointed to the budget and tax plan passed by the Republican-controlled House yesterday as an example of bad policy.
At the end of the day, the tax plan is lopsided because most of its benefits go to the wealthiest of Americans. The budget plan is flawed because it contains within it cuts that would damage people. We are going to resist, but really let's resist, but work for a better plan. America can and should do better.
New Orleans Mayor and U.S. Conference of Mayors President Mitch Landrieu added that pushing for civil rights advancements will also be a top priority.
It is important at this moment in time to recognize where we are and to stand up and forcefully talk about the issues of hatred, of bigotry, of racism, to speak very clearly that that is not the American way. Those are not shared American values, and we will stand against that.
Other priorities of the mayoral and civil rights partnership include protecting DREAM Act immigrants, pushing for a fair and accurate 2020 census, and criminal justice reform. The mayors and civil rights leaders say they will meet again in January to flesh out more specific policy proposals. Our panel today, Brandon Cooper, chair of the Prince George's County Republican Party. Also, Amber J. Phillips, co-host of Black Joy Mixtape Podcast. Douglas Sloan, co-founder of the National Capital Strategy Group. And Leah Wright-Ruggiero, assistant professor of the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and author of the book, The Loneliness of the Black Republican. Brandon's over here is clapping.
It's a good book. I read the synopsis online.
Yeah, y'all still lonely when it comes to challenging your party.
Oh, here we go.
You know I ain't lying.
You know I challenge all the time. Man.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Right.
We're gonna get to North Carolina in a little second. See what you got to say about that. Leah, one of the things when it comes to this here, what you have going on with Republicans, they love talking about block grants going to states, but the reality is mayors have always been saying we know better when it comes to our cities as opposed to dealing with all the state problems. And so what these mayors really are saying is to Trump, to Republicans in Congress, don't come with that block grant crap. You need to be dealing with the cities directly.
Right. So part of what's going on too is that it's a pushback at this whole thing about, right, that Democrats, that civil rights organizations don't care about the local, right? That they've been messing up these cities, they've been doing all of these, doing all of these nefarious things, which is a charge that Republicans have been using over and over and over again. But actually what we're seeing is them saying, you need to put your money with your mouth where your mouth is, and actually see that we've been doing this for years, that we've been working on this, that we've been pushing back, and that we're actually going to try and address these issues that African Americans have been really talking about and working on for generations. But now we actually want to do something about it and let us be the ones to control that. So I think it's important that they're calling it out and they're saying, put your money where your mouth is.
Douglas, when you look at public policy, at the end of the day, what is hilarious here, Republicans in Congress and Trump wants to always talk about, how all of these cities run by Democrats, how all they're in trouble. I can show you a whole bunch of rural cities in America that are broke, that have fundamental problems, opioid crisis, and a lot of them got Republican mayors. So to me, the fundamental problems what's happening in our cities ain't about a Democratic mayor, Republican mayor. What it is about, and Brandon, you can smirk all you want to, but what it's about is failed policies. And again, when you have folks who want to keep pushing the block grant concept versus money going right to cities and those mayors, that to me is a problem.
It is a problem. And I mean, those rural towns that you mentioned are going to be the first ones that get hurt if Trump ever manages to appeal Obamacare. So we're looking at the same issues in these rural towns and some of these rural areas, sometimes worse than having in the cities, because we don't have a big opioid crisis here in Washington, D.C. or in Detroit or in Los Angeles. It's not like it is out in the suburbs or in the rural areas. So sometimes they're facing even worse problems. And I think this is just an indictment of the inertia of the Trump administration. They have failed to move any substantive legislative pieces in the last 10 months, save for sanctions against Russia, which he refuses to implement. So again, I mean, I think a lot of this is coming down to Trump not being able to get the job done in the Republican House and Republican Senate, also not being able to get the job done.
So, Brandon, when have you seen Donald Trump meet with the U.S. Conference of Mayors? Have seen him talk to these particular mayors about what's happening? Have you seen any of that?
No.
Have you seen any evidence they actually have a real domestic policy agenda?
Not at all, but I have to agree with our co-panelists here that the cities really are at the forefront of policy agenda. You're talking about, again, it's not a Democrat or Republican issue, but if you look at one of my favorite issues, education. We agree a lot on education. 90% of education funding comes from the local government. You know, the school boards that are running these schools are local government. The police chiefs, we're talking about police violence against the black community. The police chiefs who set the policies of the police departments, they're hired and ran not by the President of the United States, not by the DOJ, but by the local cities. So I appreciate this effort to get more active on local level.
So if that's the issue, then why won't your party, though, deal with them? Why do they want to continue to push this whole notion of only going to the states and block grants? Maybe it's because 31 governors are Republican. They don't want to deal with mayors.
I mean, I think it's just, you know, I think we have some lawyers on the panel that can vouch for this, but I think it's just kind of the setup of our federalism form of government. When you send the money back, you know, the 10th Amendment, whatever the federal government doesn't do is left to the states to do.
Not true.
And
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
Because the reality is our federal government does send money directly to cities.
I know.
But
I'm just saying, what's heavy on the states is because they let the governors allocate it that way and they send it out to the states that way.
No, I would say that because you have 31 Republican governors and they also control those legislatures, they rather have that. And what I'm saying is it should be going to cities, Amber.
Yeah, I find this conversation interesting because one, these mayors are operating under this presidency, that a lot of even though we're saying Trump hasn't passed significant policy, he has done a lot to put us in shambles. Politically, you have people who are from the local level and above. You have people who are going head to head. You have folks who don't have what they need. You have American citizens who are afraid for their lives, afraid of their neighbors, and he's doing nothing to help it. Even when we had mayors like in Charlottesville speak up for what they need, the president didn't support them when they pushed back against those protests there. So this is just a continuation of that, a continuation of threatening all of our local leaders, all of our leaders who aren't in line with what Trump is wanting to do with this country.
And also, Leah, final comment on this here. This administration also will not meet with civil rights organizations. They will not meet with the very people who are out there fighting for those rights because, in fact, this Department of Justice, they are fighting the folks like Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. They're fighting the folks like Transformative Justice Coalition, or they're fighting NAACP, Legal Defense Education Fund, because they are standing up for voting rights, and Republicans right now are doing all they can. Brandon's entire party, whether he wants to accept it or not, entire party, top to bottom, they are advancing an agenda that attacks civil rights in this country.
Right. So two quick things. One, which is that remember Donald Trump, right before he was elected, instituted that thing where he said, you know, he spoke to Black America and said, you know,
he spoke to Black America in front of a whole bunch of white people.
Exactly.
Yes, go ahead.
But issued this thing where he said, I'm going to do a new deal for Black America, and here's my plan, right? Which it wasn't really a plan, but was just a whole bunch of stuff that he was saying. But these civil rights leaders called him on it, and they said, you know, where's that plan? They're still calling him on it. And so the second point is,
I'm looking.
I mean,
you would want to find it, though.
You're not going to find it exactly because it's not there, right? It's
Brandon, do you got that plan?
No.
Okay, I'm waiting for it.
No.
I'm saying being a Black. I just want to check to make sure you had it.
So what we're seeing from these civil rights leaders and what we're seeing from these local leaders as well is them calling Trump on that and saying, remember when you said, what do you have to lose? Now we're outlining what we have to lose, and we're being proactive about it and laying out a platform for us to do for ourselves, because you're not going to do it.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.